So the last piece is how it all fits together. How do all these business functions actually produce something that's a good or a service? So if you could walk us through our final product is a donut, what are all of the different business functions, accounting, finance, HR, ops, that gets us to that donut?
Okay. So the donut's in the case. And I guess the first thing is there's a sign in front of the donut. And we need to make those signs. So part of, we have two people that sort of handle our sort of operational display merchandise aspects as well as the social media. So Nick is the gentleman who works with the printing house, and we always make sure that he goes out and he gets these cards made so that everybody knows what flavor the donut is. So now the donut goes to our front of house staff member who is explaining the donut to someone. So they get a message. We actually use Slack as one of our primary means of communication, and so we can keep conversations organized. So they'll find out there what the new flavor is, you know, or it's a usual suspect donut and they already know what the flavor is. From there, we go back into the kitchen, and our kitchen manager will have worked with some of the staff to come up with the flavor. So that aspect happens like about 2 to 3 weeks before the end of the month. They're starting to think about and iterate the new flavor. So what they'll do there is they'll get recommendations and suggestions, and the kitchen manager will then sort of plug that into a spreadsheet that our accounting firm has made that helps us to drill down on, like, can we actually make this and actually still, you know, be profitable, which is very important.
That's incredible. You have like a donut algorithm.
Yeah, it's pretty bare bones at this point. I want it to be a lot more layered, but it's getting there. And so the practice of doing it and the persistence of it is more important than the actual quality of it. I think that getting them into the habit of doing it is the most important part, and getting them thinking about it that way. So we sort of, with the accounting firm, they help us to sort of drill down on whether or not we can do the flavor. From there, once they've figured out what the flavor is, our general manager, Krista, who is probably the most important person in the entire business. She is the
Yourself
greatest.
included.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, she's, remember when I was talking about hiring better? That's Krista. So Krista will get that information. She's the one that will then disseminate it to the managers of the shops. And then they'll then sort of make sure that the staff know through Slack that this is the donut that's happening. And that pretty much, I guess also the kitchen manager, also her responsibility is to make sure that the staff have the recipes clearly defined. They know how to make it, where the toppings go, all those things. So that's that person's responsibility as well. I would like to add also, in a broader sense, there's the question of, because our product is perishable and very expensive to make, we are constantly struggling and trying to figure out how many donuts to make. It's the never-ending challenge of how many people are going to come and buy donuts today, and let's try not to make too many, because that's very crippling for a business where we're making everything from scratch, and it is labor-intensive in the back, and we don't sell day-olds. So I actually work with the kitchen manager to help with the projections. We record every day. We record how many donuts of each type of dough get sold every day of the week. We've been doing it for a few years now. So we have a lot of data that we use to help project what we're going to do each day, and then that gets broken out into each of the shops and how many donuts each shop is going to make. Then we have packing slips for each shop that the kitchen manager then puts on for the driver to use to make sure that the right amount of donuts are getting to the shops.
Who knew?
Yeah, it's very challenging.
It's a complex process.
Totally, and I guess you were asking about some of our key activities. I think part of that is also making donuts, but delivering donuts is part of our key activity, and making sure we're delivering the right amount.
And can I ask, is there ever an instance, or do you have an example of when the functions just didn't speak to each other, or there was a breakdown and something happened?
Oh yeah, all the time. They end up making like way too many donuts or not enough. Suddenly the shop has
like a wonderful
nothing.
problem. Call me.
Yeah. We're gonna need some help here. Can you just come on over? Or just sometimes someone will forget to, say, add salt to the yeast dough or something like that, right? Now you've got a massive amount of dough that's been made that now takes hours to make, and the current product is, we're not going to sell it, which is a very serious problem, because it's not the waste, it's the fact that now those products aren't being made for orders that are in advance. Maybe somebody's coming in expecting that specific flavor because they ordered it 2 weeks ago, and now we don't have it. And so that's happened, you know, from time to time, because again, we make things from scratch, so mistakes do get made. Sometimes the filling in the stuffies is burnt or something like that, and now they're not ready on time, and those things happen all the time.
And with those things, are there controls or learning experiences that happen coming out of them?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever those types of things happen, we look at, like, and I think this is an important aspect of life in general, is not to pass blame, but to look at how you set up a situation. And so when those things happen, it's important to look at what are the things that I could have done differently to help this other person do their job better. So if it's something about maybe the salt was not added, well, maybe there needs to be like marks on the bins so that they know if they haven't filled it up to a certain level, there's obviously something wrong, and maybe you can't know what that ingredient is that you forgot, but at least you haven't gone 5 steps further to realize that it's not right. So trying to set up some fail-safes to make sure those things don't happen, using timers that are really loud to make sure that, you know, when your filling is done, there's a loud noise and you know that somebody's got to go do something.
And the last question is related. So when something goes wrong, do you harness or pull from all the different business functions in a response to make it right? You know what, I really try to, if something goes wrong, I try to find out like who's the leader of that section, and talk to that person, and like I said, get them to not look at what somebody else did, but look at what they did, how they set up the situation that allowed somebody else to fail, basically. And so, because it's a lot more potent, and you learn more if you look at situations and how you set them up yourself, and how you contributed to something, not that it's completely your fault, but how you contributed to it, because that's where the learning part comes in. If you're just passing blame, then nothing good comes of that. And again, it's not putting people first.